There is a truth that lies beneath Mexico City, whispered in the groan of settling concrete and the trickle of ancient runoff. The lake remembers the gold it swallowed. I proved it, where the Zocalo meets the ruins of the Templo Mayor, in the forgotten veins of a dying empire. It began not with a conquistador's ledger, but with a lie. A 16th-century Nahuatl codex, long dismissed as a crude colonial-era copy of a lost original, was being digitized at the Instituto Nacional de Antropología e Historia. The intern noticed a faint, ghostly shimmer under UV light, not on the surface, but beneath it. It was a palimpsest. Using hyperspectral imaging, we burned through the surface layer of 17th-century plant dyes. Beneath it emerged a different map entirely, not of land, but of water. It was a precise, schematic diagram of the Acequias Reales, the royal water channels of Tenochtitlan, the Aztec capital. One line, drawn in a pigment made from powdered malachite, pulsed from the symbol for the royal palace directly to a complex nexus of lines near the sacred precinct. Beside it was the glyph for Tenochtitlan, god excrement, the Nahuatl word for gold, and a single haunting phrase, "It flows where the Chacmul weeps into the stone throat." The Chacmul is a Maya rain deity statue, not traditionally Aztec, but one was famously found by Leopoldo Batris in 1904 near the Templo Mayor. It sits with a basin on its stomach, a receptacle for offerings, or for liquid. The stone throat could be an aqueduct. The hunt for Moctezuma's $120 million imperial gold dust had begun. Clue 1. The weeping god and the stone throat. The Chacmul in the Templo Mayor Museum was the key. Its basin was dry, but mineral analysis showed traces of not just water, but microscopic particles of gold. It had once held gold-laden liquid. But why? The stone throat was the clue. Studying the palimpsest map, the malachite line terminated at a specific junction in the water system. Consulting colonial construction records, we found it. An early Spanish chapel, built in the 1520s, had its foundation pilings driven directly into an old and sturdy conduit of the heathens. That conduit was still there, buried. We gained access to the chapel's crypt. Behind a 19th-century wall, we found the original Aztec masonry, a perfectly carved channel of volcanic Tizontle stone, about 2 feet wide. It was dry now, silted with centuries of dust. At the junction point marked on the map, the channel wall had a carving, a spiral representing water with a drop-shaped depression at its center. In that depression was a small ceramic plug, sealed with bitumen. Removing it, we found a cavity holding a single object, a gold tweezers used by Aztec nobility for plucking facial hair. It was a deliberate, elegant signature. Wrapped around it was a strip of maguey fiber paper. On it, painted in vivid blue, the color of water and sacrifice, was the next clue. A sequence of 4-day signs from the Tonal Pohualli, the 260-day sacred calendar. Crocodile, rain, flint, and movement. Clue 2. The calendar of flow. Aztec divination was based on the Tonal Pohualli. These 4 signs were not a date, but a sequence of instructions. Cipactli, crocodile, represented the primordial waters, the source. Quiahuitl, rain, was the act of falling, of descent. Tecpatl, flint, was cutting, a knife edge, a division. Olin, movement, was earthquake, transformation, and specifically, the sun's movement. We interpreted it hydraulically. Source was the Chapultepec aqueduct, which brought fresh water into the city. Descent meant a point where the channels sloped downward. Cutting or division meant a junction or sluice gate. Movement suggested a dynamic, changing feature, perhaps a tidal gate affected by the lake's rise and fall. We mapped the known archaeological traces of the main aqueduct from Chapultepec. Using ground-penetrating radar along its suspected path toward the Templo Mayor, we located a section where the channel made a sharp 15-degree descent. Just downstream, the radar showed a man-made feature, a stone baffle or gate within the channel. And beyond that, the signature of a large rectangular chamber, not a tank, but a sedimentation basin. Access was through a maintenance shaft for the modern city's water system, 3 blocks away. We descended into a hot, cramped world of 20th century pipes and cables. Behind a corroded steel panel, we found the original Aztec stonework. The baffle was there, a sharp, vertical stone lip in the channel floor. And just past it, carved into the wall, was a square opening, sealed with a perfectly fitted stone slab. On the slab was carved the Olin symbol. Clue 3. The Chamber of Shimmering Water. The slab was heavy, but not mortared. Using inflatable airbags, we inched it sideways. A rush of cool, remarkably dry air sighed out. Our headlamps pierced the darkness. The chamber was about 20 feet square, its ceiling supported by pillars. But it was not empty. Along the walls were rows of large, fat-bellied ceramic jars, ollas, each nearly 3 feet tall, their mouths sealed with tightly fitted stone lids and a thick layer of latex rubber from rubber trees. One jar had been broken in antiquity, perhaps during the frantic sealing process. Its contents had spilled and solidified on the floor in a glittering, granular cascade. I knelt and touched it. It wasn't sand. It was gold dust. Millions of tiny alluvial particles, like the finest, most expensive beach in the world. Tenochtitlan. God excrement. But this was just the antechamber. On the far wall was a low archway, sealed with a more formidable barrier, a wall of carefully laid bricks made not of adobe, but of solid salt. This was a consumable seal. You could literally lick your way through, but it would take a lifetime. Or you could dissolve it with water, a clever, desperate final defense. Introducing water to dissolve the salt would risk flooding the chamber behind it, potentially washing away the very treasure it protected. Carved above the salt brick wall was the final glyph. It showed the rain god Tlaloc, but his eyes were not tears, they were spirals, and from his mouth flowed a stream, but the stream split into 2 paths. The inscription read, "The god drinks only what the sun has touched, part the waters with fire." Clue 4. Parting the waters with fire. The god drinks only what the sun has touched. Tlaloc required rainwater, water touched by the sun, not groundwater or lake water. Part the waters with fire was a paradox. How do you use fire on water? The answer was chemical, not literal. The Aztecs were masterful chemists and metallurgists. They knew salt dissolved in water. They also knew that a concentrated solution of salt water could be electrolyzed, not with electricity, but with a chemical fire. We hypothesized the wall was not pure sodium chloride, but a mixture containing a nitrate salt, like saltpeter. Introducing a specific organic compound, perhaps pulque, fermented agave sap, the drink of the gods, could initiate a slow, controlled, exothermic reaction that would degrade the wall without a massive release of water. It was a terrifying gamble. Using a long, thin drill, we extracted a core sample of the wall. Analysis confirmed it. Sodium chloride, potassium nitrate, and traces of limestone. We designed a gel of pulque and a mild organic acid. Applied to a small section, it began to fizz and crumble the salt brick over 48 hours, creating a narrow, stable tunnel without collapse or flood. We crawled through. The inner chamber was smaller. Here, there were no jars. Instead, there were shallow stone basins, like troughs, and they were full, not with dust, but with a solid, shimmering cake of consolidated gold particles that had settled from a slurry. This was the primary deposit. The jars in the outer chamber were the overflow, the emergency cache. In the center of the room was a small stone altar. On it lay a jade mask of Tlaloc, and before it a single, perfect nugget of alluvial gold the size of a fist, an offering to the god of water to protect the wealth of the empire. A final ledger, on a sheet of beaten gold, listed the contents in Nahuatl tally marks. The estimate, over 500 cargas, a Spanish colonial unit used later, but here applied to the indigenous Quachtli load. Roughly 2,000 pounds of pure, raw gold dust and nuggets. The liquid wealth of an empire, we alerted the INA immediately. The discovery was unprecedented. Not artistic treasure, but the raw monetary reserve of the Aztec state, preserved exactly as it was in its utilitarian form. This was the wealth that could raise armies, feed cities, and buy loyalty. The valuation was staggering, yet simple. 2,000 pounds of pure gold is worth over $60 million at bullion value. But this was not bullion. This was archaeological gold dust, each particle a data point on pre-Columbian mining and trade, with a direct provenance to the imperial treasury. Its cultural and historical value multiplied its worth. The official conservative valuation for insurance and heritage significance was set at $120 million. The Mexican government declared it the patrimony of the nation. It will never be sold. Instead, a minute fraction of the dust will be used for non-destructive research. The rest will be displayed in a revolutionary new exhibit at the Templo Mayor Museum, showing the economic engine behind the empire's glory. The true discovery was the sophistication of Moctezuma's, or more likely, Cuauhtémoc's, final act. This was not a panicked hide. It was a systematic, engineered preservation of liquid capital. They turned their water management system into a bank vault, using chemistry and hydrology as their lock. They didn't just hide gold. They turned their god of water into its guardian. For 500 years, through conquest, plague, and the rise of a new city atop the old, the gold flowed silently in its stone veins, waiting for the god to weep and for someone to understand that the greatest treasure of Tenochtitlan was not its art, but its economic heart, frozen in time. The lake remembered the gold it swallowed, and now it has given it back.